All right, we're live. Okay, got 4 minutes until we open up. Let me get my screen all ready to go. So the first thing, maybe not the first thing, but one of the things I always like to do when I come in is I will look at my overnight highs and lows. So I pull up my overnight chart here, and I just put on whatever the overnight highs and lows are. So I just connected. We'll let the data populate. Yesterday ended up being a pretty good bull day, and we'll see. Is today gapping up? All right. So once I have my overnight lows, I'll copy them onto my 5-minute chart. Overnight high, overnight low. Put them on here. So, yeah, so we're going to gap up, and we're gapping up above the all-time high. So we're just kind of in a stage right now where market might just be kind of continuing to trend up, and that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. I think we would need a big negative news event for the market to actually like have a strong move down. Otherwise, I think we'll just kind of continue to slowly drift up. So we opened and we did gap up. I mean, that's good. That's good for the bulls. There's the all-time high. We gapped up above it. Gapped up above yesterday's high. So as far as scheduled news today, nothing really to note. Hey, Jackie there.
What's going on, man?
All good. Just seeing this, we gapped up. It's another new all-time
Yeah, I'm
high.
looking at that. Set some records yesterday, apparently.
Yeah.
Very nice.
The open's always very a slow time for me because I'm not doing much with like individual stocks. I'm just kind of looking at the E-mini, and it usually takes at least a few
Right.
bars for some for some to set
Something
up.
to form. Yeah.
Well, yesterday ended up being a pretty nice bull trend day. Going into it, I didn't think we would be that trending that much, but we ended up doing a lot of that. So the open, it does like to try to test the overnight low and overnight high. So either direction we get, that's why there's often a lot of reversals in the open because it's trying to test these different levels early in the day and trying to figure out what kind of day it's going to be. Gold gapped up as well. So we had kind of touched on that yesterday, where like their gold and the market are moving together. So anyone that might be in the chat, if you have any questions or thoughts on the day's market, then let us know. We'll be happy to answer you. Well, trying to form a decent sized bear bar on the first bar. I would suspect that this is just a move down that would end up as an opening reversal. So I don't think we would have lots of selling at the start here. There is apparently they're going to release like the some grand jury information on the Epstein files. So
Did see a headline this morning about something like that.
now, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be anything. Just like everything else has been nothing. but we'll see. We'll see what they say.
Pretty interesting because it seems like they're not letting the story die, but they're also not providing
Right,
answers that
right.
it seems like everybody's asking for. So it's like, what's the end result here?
I think what they're going to try to do with this is say like, oh, we've showed you all this and there's nothing, so drop it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Could be. It's also interesting. I'm noticing a lot of the Fed governors are speaking about what they believe the next Fed chair should believe. Kind of interesting.
Like like relative to like Fed stuff or like Epstein.
Fed stuff. Kind of
Okay.
shifting gears off of that. Seems like all the Fed governors are kind of making comments about what they want for the next Fed chair and kind of, making comments as to what they would like to see out of the next Fed chair. So I think that's for sure gonna happen at some point. Um, at least all the governors and people sitting on that committee, they're talking about what they want for the next Fed chair. So I find that a little interesting.
Yeah, I mean I don't know, but I would assume like they're not usually too vocal on that kind of thing from the
You would
past.
you would think, you know.
I'm kind of just going through different stocks, seeing if there's anything interesting to look at. I used to own Robinhood, and then um, don't anymore. But Robinhood continues to do well. And I owned Robinhood because I thought, well, I use Robinhood, so at least there's some basis there to own it. Hey, Adam. Good morning. Yeah, let me get to your questions on those cryptos. So let's pull up Bitcoin. Um, yeah. So with my uh, trade I took on Bitcoin, and the reason I was bullish, starting a week or two ago, we had this pretty nice move up. So I would call this a bull leg, and then we had this two-legged pullback that occurred around here. And once again, we can kind of draw these channel lines on it through like this. And so this pattern, I would call this a bull flag. So bull leg, couple legs, first leg, second leg, And when then around here, the market broke above that and pulled back to test the top of the channel and test the moving average. Then we had another double bottom around here at the moving average. And so this looks to me like it's trying to form a breakout of this this flag, this bearish channel. And so knowing that we're basically at the all-time highs and that there's room up to like 120,000, 130,000. So I wanted to, so I had bought there and got out around 120,000. And now we're kind of just waiting to get more information on it. We really don't have a ceiling on Bitcoin because there's no previous price up here, but something that I would look at, something just kind of basic, is a measured move of this trading range we had back at the start of the year. That puts us up around 145,000. And you could also do the same thing with this pullback. You could draw a measured move of that pullback. And that puts you up around 125. So when the market's going to, when it's above its all-time high and it's kind of in this no man's land, then these are ways that you can kind of create some context. So on Bitcoin, would I rather be long or short? I'd rather be long. This is the daily chart, and probably if it forms another bear bar today, and if I was long, then I would get out below that bear bar. And then I would need to wait for another bullish setup to buy again. You'll sell Bitcoin at 1 million. Yeah, I mean, I hope it just kind of quickly just goes up to 1 million. I'd probably do that too. ARB, I assume this is I'm gonna assume this is the ARB you're talking about. So the daily chart, and I'm kind of zoomed out, the long-term view, we've had this bear channel working down, and kind of a reversal pattern I like to see is this major trend reversal. So we have a trend, and there's in the trend you have lots of these minor reversals like here and here and here. And in the major trend reversal, it usually has more bars that form the reversal, and it breaks this major trend line. So here's the trend line, it breaks above it. And notice through this reversal pattern, we've had more than 20 bars. So it's not like these minor reversals that kind of are there for a few bars and they reverse down. This is a much more significant reversal attempt. So we broke the trend line, that's step one. We retested the lows, that's step two. And now we're trying to go higher. So this could be the start of a more major reversal into a bull trend. My concern with buying where we're at is that we're basically buying into these prior highs here and here. And we're really right at those. So I would not be buying right into that because I don't normally like to buy right into a level of resistance like that. So for me, this is something I would look at like kind of over the next few days, a couple weeks, see how it reacts to this level. And then, consider buying it maybe if we can get above it, and then like it comes back and retests that level. It's had a very strong last few weeks. And it's doubled in the last few weeks. But the buy for this was more like somewhere down here. I'm trying to take a swing trade down here. And I'd rather not be buying up here because now our risk is kind of big and our reward, it's tough because we'd be buying right into a piece of resistance. Yeah, that's a good question there. Yeah, so you had bought 100 coins of the ARB, 100,000 coins of the ARB. Yeah, I mean, I think bigger picture. I think we're kind of near the start of a larger bull reversal. Once again, it's just tough saying something right now because we're right into that piece of resistance, and it's not just right here; it extends farther back. And these aren't perfect touches back here, but this is all basically the same level. Yeah, I mean, so if you like it, yeah, either it continues to go up here, or if it goes down and you still like it, then you can buy more. So sure. Yeah, Robinhood started using tokenized stocks on the blockchain. Yeah, so I heard about that. So that is that just for like I heard their use case for that would be for like international stocks. Um, okay, and the blockchain they're using that is the ARB. Okay, so I guess that explains how you were kind of got interested in ARB. Okay, yeah, it's for the EU to buy American stocks. Yeah, I mean there's potential with it. I think just kind of based on this like major trend reversal I was talking about, break of the trend line. Then after you retest the lows, so either this or this, then you're kind of looking for a buy more like around in this area. After we retested it, then we're back up with moving average, retest the moving average. So like the swing trade would be kind of like buying around here and trying to use kind of a relatively small risk. Let me look at it as a weekly chart. Yeah, this is kind of even clearer on the weekly chart. This support resistance level. Yeah, so it'd be great. Give it 2 or 3 weeks and see if it can like break through it and then retest that level. Yeah, I mean, the yeah, I mean the timing's important, but like if you're, if ARB is going to be something that works out, then the timing won't really matter. If we end up in a big bull trend, it won't matter really where you buy it. On the mini big gap, medium sized gap up, and then 3 bear bars, then a pretty strong bull bar. So neither side's really convinced yet that they're going to win today. It's a big tail on the bottom of the second bar. Then we have a bear bar, but it's followed by a big bull bar. So considering yesterday was a pretty good bull trend, I have to remain somewhat bullish today. And so I want to see it kind of get out of this opening reversal type mode. I think we see these 3 bear bars, so why not try to short? Well, there was a big piece of news, but you saw that. Yeah, E-mini fell about 7 points in half a second. So I'm going to try to pull up some news. If you figure out what might have happened there. I'm not really getting follow through, but there was like a 7-point drop like immediately. I'll see if if there was a Truth Social post. Sometimes for news, I'll use this unusual whales group. They kind of keep a continuous ticker of different pieces of news that are going on. It's maybe delayed by 5 minutes. Yeah, I mean, Trump's posts are the maybe outside of interest rates, his posts are the most important thing. Well, we're not getting any follow through from that news, but you could go play this back and you could see an immediate. I mean, it was like a 7-point drop. So this bar looks normal now, but actually, I mean, let me go down to a 10-second chart. So yeah, I mean there was that. So I don't know if that was just one big order went in, or there's some piece of news the algorithms caught on to, created this 10-second bar. And it's cool that on a 10-second chart, it kind of the price action will look the same as if it was any time frame. Uh, it's a big bear bar, and then you get a little pullback, tries to go lower again and can't, and then retest the moving average, and then you kind of go into that little zone where it's trying to figure out what to do. Well, I hope the Epstein stuff is interesting today. I don't know. I have a feeling like it's just going to be a bunch of nothing again. I like using the 2000 tick chart, but when the market's going sideways like this, um, it's to me it's almost useless. It's much more useful when it's trending. You can get these nice pullbacks to the moving average. Yeah, I think it'll be nothing, but it'll just create a lot of like content for YouTubers to pick at it. So we had 3 bear bars. It was bought. We had a bull bar. It was sold. And so far, this bear bar is being bought. Yesterday, you could have bought really any bear bar, and then used somewhat of a tight stop and just got a swing trade out of it. Pull back here, pull back here, pull back here. Adam, um, let's take a look at deft. You can call this a broadening channel. when it's in this, it likes to kind of go back and forth and continue to test these levels. So if it goes, if we can stay above the moving average here, we might be seeing a test up to like $6 somewhere up here. And then on a, you know, if it ends up going down, probably see a test around 250. Look at this. Back in, if you'd been looking at him back in like 23, could have bought it for like 10 cents, 7 cents back in here. Yeah, your average at around 285. I mean, I think that's a good place to have your average at. So here's the most recent news. Brazil Supreme Court states that increased U.S. tariffs on Brazil are designed to cause severe economic crisis and interfere with legal proceedings. So this most recent bar we had actually went above the high of the day and the low of the day, all in one bar. So market's trying to work out what kind of day it's going to be. You know, it's kind of growing up, and it's, you know, it's trying to answer the question what it wants to be when it grows up. One thing about when the market moves up is that volatility goes down. When the market goes down, volatility goes up. So as the market drifts up like that, well, when the market's going up, it usually goes up kind of slowly, lethargically. You know, it's like compared to when it's in a bear trend, it kind of makes these sharp movements down, and it's very clear that it's going down. Versus the bull trend is it just kind of slowly kind of works its way up. You know, like kind of looking at like this bull trend we've been in, kind of every day just has a little bit higher probability that it'll be bullish than bearish, and it just kind of keeps on working its way up. So far we've had about a 10-point range. I doubt we're going to stay in a 10-point range today. I would think that we're going to instead at least double this range. This is something you often see happen. It's like the range yesterday and the last few days, they've been more like 40 points or so. So today will probably end up larger than what we have right now. And if it does, pretty clearly had a trading range on the open so far. So this range will probably double in size. So we'd be either looking at a test down to here or a move up.
You got some time, we can circle back to those names we kind of talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Cliffs.
Yeah, let me pull them up.
OIS, NFE, and CLF are the three that I kind of talked about yesterday, and they're having some breakout moves today. New Fortress Energy with a big gap up, 9% this morning, so we love that.
Let me pull up New Fortress.
Rocket Lab is kind of checking back to its 200, but yeah, I'm looking at New Fortress right now. I think I briefly mentioned that one yesterday. The daily chart looks pretty nice. I like that it's filling in all of that divergence space there off the 200, starting to close that in again. I really like that. And
yeah, it has a lot of room left to go there.
Yeah, running off its 20-day moving average, so big fan of that.
Just what we were talking about the 200 yesterday, and like you look at the daily on the New Fortress here, and it ran up to the 200, kind of double top at it, and then ran down.
Yep.
And that, I do, that's I love to see that, those very, very easy tests of that.
Kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about moving average lines and kind of plotting trends and currents, and utilizing that 200 is a perfect example of just one indicator of moving average 200 and being able to paint a picture off of that one indicator.
Yeah, I really like it. That can take you like pretty far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, here's Cleveland Cliffs. Yeah, gap up there.
Yeah, and that we've seen over the past, when you go to the daily chart, you can see it just closing in all of that space up to the 200. We saw it kind of check that 200 a couple days back. Was it last week?
Last week.
Ago. And looks like it's going to run and try it again and test that ceiling again. So kind of looking at the 986 mark, 985 in there is like its ceiling. So something to kind of keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean that looks good. It looks like this might be the time that it. I have a trend line drawn on there too. It got above that trend line and retested it, and yeah, if it can get past that 200, it looks like it might continue to run up.
And if we look at this most current bar that it's printing right now with giant leg down, so we can see the upward pressure on it is pretty strong. When you chart it onto the 5-day moving average, it comes right back to the top of that line. Broke below it, came right back.
Yeah.
So that a lot of upward pressure on this one right now.
Be nice to be the CEO of some of these companies, or at least a real big holder, and you see, that they have tens of millions of dollars in the company. Then now they're worth double that over a few days. Yeah, OIS talking about the 200 moving average on the daily chart. It tested. It was trying to go up, and acted as resistance in May. Then we broke above it, and then it tried to retest it, couple of days ago. We got pretty close to testing it, and now we're going up. So it's kind of made that, before it was resistance, but now it's acting as support.
Right. Again, just going back to our point of how valuable the 200-day moving average can be. Yeah, and we've seen it the past couple of days here, when 4 days here, we've seen it break under the 20-day moving average. And now, as of today, testing that upper limit on the 20-day again. So if you can break above the 20-day, I can kind of see that as some short-term support and kind of a short-term floor. But definitely something I'm looking at for sure. These are all names that I've just kind of ran through screeners and popped up for one reason or another, whether it's bullish indicators on the chart, or I think one of the other things I was scanning for is kind of news-driven things, which is why we're seeing a lot of oil and lithium and materials, pretty heavy news-driven stuff lately.
I think the labs are looking a little down today.
Yeah, the labs aren't the lab trade that I got going on here is not working today. But hey, it worked yesterday with Rocket Lab.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of that name, if we pull that name up on the 5-minute chart, came back down to the 200-day moving average, and it's just using it as support, just kind of consolidating on that line. And over on the daily chart, you can see it came back down just a little bit, and then still a lot of upward pressure on it. But I mean, with a move yesterday, to put this into context, we moved 12% to the upside yesterday. So
yeah,
kind of coming back to earth a little bit is okay.
Yeah, it had done that after already like tripling in a couple months.
Yeah, I think I mentioned yesterday, I remember seeing something a little while back that Rocket Lab scored some federal government contracts for the launching of some satellites and stuff like that. I guess the government diversifying from kind of SpaceX, not taking business away, but also just adding on another company to provide supply, basically. It's pretty crazy when you think about SpaceX and how much of a corner of the market they kind of have with the launches of things. There's not too many direct competitors that are doing satellite launches and able to launch payloads at such a cheap price point.
Yeah. Yeah, with Rocket looking the way it was, having so many consecutive days getting farther and farther for the moving average, I mean, it's going to attract some profit takers. I think we talked about Snap a couple weeks ago, and it's actually getting above the 200 moving average, but I'm not a fan of trying to buy Snap. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't use it. I don't know who it's for anymore. It's up since the tariff flows in April, but it might just because it's just kind of the rising tide raises all ships. It's just kind of moving up just because there's money flowing into the market. It's not necessarily moving up because it's doing better as a company. E-mini is starting to get some traction on the way down. So red line is the overnight low, and so we broke it below that. That's a potential reversal area. So on the open, it likes to kind of probe up and down and see if there are buyers or sellers at these areas. So what this might be is just a test down, and just to basically get to this area and see what's there, and or trap some people before heading higher. No matter what happens today, we did set a new all-time high this week. So it happened today, actually. Here's our new all-time high up here. Now, if today does end up as a big bear day, well, that wouldn't be too favorable for the bullish case, because how this would look today, there's a couple things that are special about today. One, it's Friday, so it's the end of the week. Let me pull up a weekly bar. So here's the week. The bulls want this bar to close as bullish as possible, so it looks more bullish going into next week. And the bears want to at least weaken the bar. They want to create a tail on top. And so, especially if they can close it below yesterday's high, then that would be important, because these closes matter. If they can close above yesterday's high, that would be stronger than if they closed below last week's high. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line on the chart for last week's high. Which kind of at right now. What color to use? And so especially on like a Friday, I like to monitor these levels. So two different levels you could argue the bears are trying to test. One is the overnight low, and the other is the last week high. So now knowing this, having the last week's high on there, it's probably a better argument that this is what the market's going down and testing, is this last week high. It's kind of like on any time frame. If you have a 5-minute bar, in the last minute, you'll often see the market really fight over how it closes. So, and then this is or higher time frame, if you're considering a weekly chart, then on the last day of the week, then the market's going to try to fight over what happens. So the bears are trying really hard here to create a bear day to weaken it going forward. But a problem they might run into is this is still in the open, so it might reverse, and all the selling they're doing, if they can't overwhelm the bulls, then the bulls end up overwhelming them, and then we could end up much higher. So both sides kind of play their games. Another reason today is important is because we are breaking above the all-time high. What you could look at this as is a double top, failing to break out above the all-time high. So yesterday, all-time high is here. We break above it, go lower, try to break above it again, and fail. Fail pretty sharply because you see this big tail on the top of the bar. So people could look at that and say we made 2 attempts go higher and couldn't, and so that would be there'd be a bearish case there. This indicator on the indicator is called the drawing tool tile, and it just puts all my tools right there where I want them. So it's pretty basic, but I do have a video on the drawing tool tile. So we're continuing to get these bear bars. We've now had 7 in a row, and we've only had 1 bull bar today. So as we know, the market has been up a lot since the April lows. And here's the VIX. So this is the volatility index. So here's the April lows, which corresponds to a high in the VIX. So volatility was highest. And ever since then, as the market consistently just moved up, slowly moved up, then the VIX went lower and lower. So that's kind of the relationship that the VIX and the market have. When the market when it goes down, it usually goes down very quickly, and the VIX spikes up. When the market's going up, it usually goes up very slowly, and the VIX goes down. And this also leads to, when the VIX goes up, it often ends up being the best, some of the best times to buy. And so if you go back around, to the start of April, like maybe April 8th, April 10th, then I have a video on how I traded when the VIX got above 35. So the Bears want this to be a big failure of yesterday's high, of the all-time high. The problem they might run into is they're trying to sell too early. They're putting all this effort into selling now, but the Bulls have the whole day to try to reverse it. So it's interesting. So let's say today ends up down as a bear day, then there's going to be some justification. They'll come up with some news piece about it. They'll either say it was because of the Epstein announcement, or because some other news event that they'll pick out.
Just reversed on the day. S&P went negative. We're all negative.
Yeah. The Bears need to make some money too.
Absolutely. After a day like yesterday, got to take some of that money off the table.
Well, as the market moves lower, then we'll start to get into the range of the 200 moving average, and it'll probably be right around where we had this gap yesterday. So market was heading up, then it pulled back, then it broke through, and it retested that level. And that level usually continues to be important. So we're in a decent sized bull bar now, but if it can continue to move lower, there's probably going to be support around this level down here. Nvidia, the largest stock, would also be getting pretty close to its 200 moving average, and I expect if I pull up any of the biggest companies, they're all going to be kind of in the same position. So pretty decent bull bar, but after following 8 bear bars, even if we go higher, we'd usually at least need to retest this low in some way.
I'm gonna be jumping off the desk here at 8 o'clock my time, so about 20 minutes.
Okay.
I'm just kind of sitting on some of these positions that I've opened up earlier this week, looking for some exits on a couple things. Start fresh for next week.
Yeah.
What are you looking at right now? You sitting on anything? What do you got going on over there?